coming back for me.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dreamality. Welcome to my review of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Is this game worth your money? Is it worth your time? That's the question I'm here to help answer. Let's begin by breaking down the story.
There's no doubt about it. The source of the darkness is in Helheim. And the goddess Hela holds his soul there.
The main character is a traumatized Celtic warrior named Senua. She's on a journey to Norse mythology's land of the dead, Helheim, to save her lover's soul. There are only a couple of characters you'll meet along the way, such as Druth. Once a prisoner of the Northern Men, Druth learned all about their ways, their gods, and he shares the stories with Senua. The primary focus of the story is Senua and her struggle against the darkness that has followed her entire life. It consumes her, takes away all she loves. In a way, it defines her. The narrative can feel disorienting and unclear at times, intentionally so. The story is told through the environments, Druth's tales, some cutscenes, and the voices in Senua's head. Senua suffers from psychosis. She sees the world differently, hallucinates, and hears voices. Developer Ninja Theory has done a ton of research on the subject. The game even includes a documentary, giving a behind-the-scenes look of the mental health experts, professors of psychology, and recovering patients Ninja Theory worked with to portray psychosis accurately. Goodness me, what an ambitious game Hellblade is to deal with such sensitive subject matter, and it is handled brilliantly. Not everyone is going to connect with Senua and her story, but I did. The actress's performance is also incredible. I really cared for Senua, and at times it was hard to watch her in immense pain.
The gate is open.
Hellblade is a third-person action-adventure game. The only choice in difficulty is for combat. Playing on the default auto combat setting, in which the combat's difficulty adjusts throughout your playthrough, the game took me about 7 hours to beat. There is no map, no HUD, no way to know which way you're supposed to go. Aside from a few branching paths, the game is linear, so navigating is easy, though I did run into a little trouble finding my way in some backtracking sections. The only thing to collect in Hellblade are Druth's lore stones.
The Northmen say that the defender of Muspel is called Surt, the foremost of the fire giants.
In order to progress through areas, there are either puzzle or combat challenges. The puzzles involve finding recreations of specific symbols in the environment. These are very straightforward in the early hours. Finding and recreating the symbols are done in more creative ways as the game progresses. To solve some puzzles, these illusion gates must be used to shift reality. For example, sometimes they'll open a new path for Senua to follow. The use of illusions was one of my favorite things about this game. I enjoyed the puzzles until the closing hours. By that point, I felt I had seen all of the game's tricks, so solving one puzzle after the other wasn't interesting anymore, and it felt more like a chore. Hellblade has a solid combat system. There is no tutorial, so like everything else in this game, it's up to the player to experiment and figure things out. The combat is pretty simple, just Senua, her sword, and a focus mode where time is slowed down. There are no upgrades, no additional weapons, no skills to learn. Senua starts by versing one enemy at a time, and gradually the number increases. Even with this simplistic combat, the battles feel intense. There are only a handful of enemy types. Again, the game is around 7 hours long, and the combat isn't the focus. There are many periods of time in Hellblade where there is no action at all. Because of this, when the combat does show up, it serves as a nice, fun change of pace. There are only a couple of boss battles. I enjoyed them. There was one towards the end that I thought was awesome. There are a couple of ways to die in this game, and every time Senua dies, the darkness consumes her a little more, until there's nothing left and she stays dead. Many moments in this game were such a rush because it felt like there was so much at stake. I was completely immersed in the game because visually and acoustically, the atmosphere is constructed incredibly well. Aside from those late game puzzles, I thought the pacing was great. The game can be slow, so if you're looking for all-out action, look elsewhere. This is more of an atmospheric engulfing experience. That being said, there are moments that are very intense, even outside of combat. There were some moments that reminded me of playing a survival horror game, though this is more of a psychological thriller. This game will mess with your head. In terms of replay value, there's nothing new you unlock after beating the game. This isn't the type of game I feel the need to jump back into right away. It is an experience I want to go through again, but half a year from now. Overall, the game looks great. On the Xbox One X, there were only a couple of muddy textures from time to time. The environment looks great, the lighting and weather effects add to the game's atmosphere. The tone is established from the dreadful and eerie opening environment, where you see corpses all over the place. But throughout, there are some moments of beauty. Senua looks amazing, and her emotion is definitely captured visually. I also like the addition of seeing the dark rot on Senua, a constant reminder that success is vital. What's so impressive about the presentation aren't the photorealistic graphics, but how Senua's condition is presented on screen, how the team captures a believable, unstable reality visually. Like the use of hallucinations that are blended into the experience seamlessly. At times of chaos and panic, the screen becomes very distorted. Some of the cutscenes feature live-action actors, and I gotta say, it works well. Sometimes I feel mixing live actors with in-game graphics can come across as cheesy or distracting. While playing Hellblade, it took me a while to realize these were real people, because it blends in so well with the rest of the visuals on screen. I love the enemy design, they are massive and terrifying to look at.
She's scared. Defend yourself.
The game advises players immediately to play wearing headphones. It's an absolute must for this game in my opinion. You'll hear voices fill your head as you travel with Senua on her journey. These voices will comment on what you're doing, mock you, care for you, give advice, warn you, talk amongst each other. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in a game. During combat, they'll warn you of an incoming attack, which is extra useful when the enemy is off screen. Sometimes by entering a focus mode, Senua will drown out all of the noise and the player must pinpoint the source of some audio to solve a puzzle. I won't give any specifics, but there was one part in this game where the audio played a very large role to solve a challenge. It surprised me because I hadn't seen a challenge like that in a game before, and I thought it was very creative. The cast does a great job, but Senua steals the show. The soundtrack is almost unnoticeable. It does kick in during some emotional parts, during combat, and some of the music in the closing hours really sold the experience.
She's finally arrived in the land of mist and fog. The place the Northmen call Hell.
Hellblade is a game I won't soon forget. What an achievement by Ninja Theory in delivering such a unique experience. The interesting thing is, despite its gorgeous visuals and great optimization, Hellblade was only created by about 20 people who worked on the game for over 3 years, making the final product even more impressive. The story is good, the gameplay is enjoyable, but it's the visual and acoustic delivery that blew me away. I say Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a good game and a must-have experience. At full price, Hellblade costs $30. That's how much I paid for it, and I say it was worth it. If you find it on sale, even better. Hellblade is a very ambitious and unique experience. The experience isn't for everyone. It isn't action-packed, it deals with mature themes, it's a very dark tale. There are some very intense moments. If that all sounds okay with you, you're slightly interested, I highly recommend it. That is it, you have heard my thoughts, now it's time to share yours. If you played the game, what do you think? If you haven't, how does it look? I hope this review was helpful, I hope it was enjoyable. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and of course, thanks for watching. Just a couple more things here. If you missed my last review, I reviewed Super Mario Odyssey. That game has a slightly different tone than Hellblade. If you're interested, check it out. Future reviews include State of Decay 2 and Detroit Become Human. That about does it. I will see you all soon, and thanks again.